So I'm looking at some of the feedback coming in, and I'm just getting shredded for not hating everything about the Tigers right now. And I I think you know what I was trying to figure out. Some people make some points about their levels of frustration, and I go back to what I think are the best people to run organizations, and how I would hope that when you hire the guy, whoever your guy is, that's going to be in charge of bringing in talent. I think the smartest and the best ones are the ones that get the draft right. If you get the draft right, you are doing it in such a sustainable way. We don't know yet on Scott Harris. We don't. And we do know on a guy like Brad Holmes, right? He gets the draft right, which goes back to a level of sustainability. You've got that skill set. You're always going to be able to populate with young, cheap, talented players that you have to then decide which ones you're going to keep, which ones you're not going to keep, et cetera, et cetera. And so my judgment on a general manager starts to be formed when I start to get a sense for how they do with the draft. Some sports are easier to project than others. Baseball's very difficult.
Yeah, because you're drafting kids that are anywhere from 18 to 20, 22.
But if you go back and look at, was it Luno in Houston and the job that they did in terms of drafting players and all throughout the draft, you start to get a sense of an organization that knows what they're doing. That is probably the number one thing I'm looking for. It's not the only thing, but the number one thing I'm looking for in a GM candidate in all sports is the ability to cultivate talent from within your organization. And we can't possibly know yet on Scott Harris.
No, and I think this is such an important year in development for Riley Green and for Spencer Torkelson, because these are two guys you expect to be cornerstones of this team.
Yep.
And they're not playing like it. And we got a glimpse last year from both of those guys that they are. But it's 2 months into the season, and we haven't seen much from either. You know, both have had a good month and a bad month. So that's the disappointing part, because if those guys were cornerstones, true cornerstones, and showing themselves to be that in their third year or whatever it is they're in the league, the team would be better.
Yep.
Because the number one issue with this team this season has been the lack of putting runs across the board. The offense has been bad. But those are the two that have to do it. And then afterwards, you're going to have to find other guys. You know, they're taking a chance on Colt Keith. You know, my expectations of Colt Keith aren't sky high here, because he is a rookie who, basically whipped through the minor leagues last year in all three levels. So he didn't spend a ton of time at AAA, and nor do I want to see him go down there, because as this season has worn on, he's never looked completely out of place. He doesn't look like he's really been fooled by pitches with his swing and miss rate. I mean, he doesn't strike out terribly often, and now he's starting to hit the ball quite a bit, which is good to see. And maybe there's a little bit of reward there, but again, that's not a Scott Harris guy. But it's okay. The guys in the previous regime, you still have to develop those guys. They're not yours. They still have to be developed.